Okay, we are going to get started. It is 8:02, and y'all know what time it is. It is time for us to hit the jumpstart, rather, the virtual back to school rally, crushing college debt. And guess what, guys? This is week three. Week three. We've been going strong for three. This is our third week. So this is officially day 7, and you are in for another treat. If you've been tuning in the last 2 weeks, you have been getting a wealth of knowledge and information from our guests. Tonight, we have a special guest with us who is coming to share with you some helpful information. Parents, you must definitely know this information because this is part of the gateway into getting your child into college. You cannot bypass the college admission test. You just can't do it. Now, let me back up. There are some schools who don't look too heavily on the score, and there's some movement going on where they're trying to get rid of or minimize it. But when we look at the grand scheme of things, it's a requirement. It's part of the college admissions requirement. So I hope you have something to write with. You have some paper to take some copious notes because there's some great information that's going to be shared, and we're going to have a special for you at the end of it as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our special guest for this evening, Mr. Evan Wessler. Woo!
Thank you, Tamika.
Welcome, Evan. Thank you so much for participating and joining us this evening.
And thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. Well, first, guys, let me tell you a little bit about Evan, okay? Evan is the Vice President of Education at Method Test Prep. After graduating summa cum laude, go head on, from Bucknell University in 2009, he joined Method Test Prep, where he has since been involved in all facets of the organization, including curriculum development, private tutoring, classroom teaching, content writing, tutor training, and operations. So that just tells you he doesn't just pitch or share this information. He lives it. He understands it. He knows it. He helped develop it. So what better person can you learn from? Because this is, again, the gatekeeper to college admissions, and we wanted to make sure we connect resources that will help your child get on the right path to college admissions. And this is not just for parents. So I also want to encourage my educators listening. You can also take advantage of this. This is a tool, a resource that can be used within your schools as well for your students. But Evan will talk more about that a little later. But again, welcome, Evan. You ready to go ahead and get started?
I'm ready. I will share my screen. So just give me 1 second here.
Okay.
And you should be able to see my presentation right now.
Yes.
All right.
You definitely see it.
Okay. So thanks once again, Tamika, and welcome everyone. I really appreciate having the opportunity to present to all of you. Once again, my name is Evan Wessler. I'm the Vice President of Education at Method Test Prep. And we're an organization started in 1999. I was still in high school at that point, which gives me just some little scary perspective at how quickly the time flies. And that's actually one of the key points that I'd like to make tonight, is that if you're of age, if you're getting into college applications years, so even if you're just a freshman in high school, things are going to go more quickly than you think they're really going to. And especially if you're a sophomore or a junior, this stuff is even more relevant. If there are any parents of seniors on, college application season is pretty much already starting. The Common App went live on August 1st. You may be writing your essays, you may be thinking about applying for financial aid. So all this super important stuff. So tonight I want to talk about merit scholarships, what they are, how they're awarded to students, and the research you can do to educate yourselves on them and increase your chances of getting them, and how our program, Method Test Prep, can help you gain those merit scholarships. This is all in the context of the SAT and the ACT, two very important standardized college admissions exams. So let's get started. So part one, I want to talk about a little bit about merit scholarship money. And there's some detail on here. You don't have to write all of it down, just take some notes, but it's more important just to listen to what I'm saying. And if you have any questions, certainly type them in the chat. And obviously we're streaming live on Facebook, so I guess you might be able to submit questions there, or we'll have an email up at the end where you can email me directly if you have questions afterward. So what is merit scholarship? Well, they're scholarship awards based not on need. So if you've read anything about scholarships, or you find yourself wanting to apply for financial aid, you've probably looked at the FAFSA, you've probably looked at maybe Pell Grants, things like that. But these are not need-based, and it doesn't mean that even if you are applying for need-based scholarships that you can't do merit scholarships, but it's just a different form of financial aid. They're based on academic potential. So it's not demonstrated for your financial situation. It's really about your standing in your class and your potential to excel in the college to which you're applying. And the reason for this is that colleges tend to compete for top students. They want you to go there, and they want you to stay there, and you want to be a proud alumnus so that you go and spread the word and have more students go there. So remember, colleges, they are essentially businesses. So when you go to a college, that's a win for them as it is a win for you. So merit awards don't need to be paid back. They're not like other grants or other loans that you have to pay back, perhaps with interest after a certain period. They're just money that you can get by showing your merit. And we'll get into what that merit is very soon. Merit scholarships, just so you know, aren't awarded only by colleges and universities. There are many other entities that do award merit money. Businesses and corporations, I'm going to mention some of those later. Nonprofit organizations and organizations that promote specific groups. So for example, women in the science, technology, education, and mathematics fields, first generation college students with disabilities. There are as many groups as you could possibly think of that specifically focus money toward helping students of a certain caliber, of a certain standing, and you really do have a lot of opportunities in front of you, but you need to look hard for them. We're going to talk about that shortly. There are also plenty of state programs that recognize top students. When you apply to a state school, there may be something in the system that enables you to apply for merit-based aid even through state colleges and universities. So if, for example, you live in New York, maybe the SUNY system has some programs like that. So that's who offers scholarships and how, the places where you might gain the scholarships, but what factors determine your academic potential? This is a phrase I used just a minute ago. There are two major things. There are high school GPA and course rigor. So how rigorous, how difficult, how in-depth was the curriculum you took in high school, and how well did you do? What was your high school GPA? Many high schools are moving away from a ranking system, so you may not have a class rank, but you certainly have a grade point average on a scale of achievement that your school specifies, and colleges will see that when you send in your application. And the second key thing for academic potential is gauged by the colleges is SAT or ACT scores. Now, Tamika mentioned before that there are several schools, it's a growing group that are moving away from the SAT and ACT, either de-emphasizing their importance or sometimes even totally eliminating them from the applications process. And these are what are called test optional schools, and I'm going to get to those in a bit. It is true that some schools are test optional. That does not mean that you can't benefit by submitting good test scores. So it's good to keep in mind that even if the school is test optional, if you're going for merit aid, you're going for some scholarship that's based on your academic potential, you may need to submit SAT and or ACT scores anyway. This is just a world unto itself. When you start to do research, if you just type in scholarships, you're going to get overwhelmed by the number of search results that come up. But if you go to the right places and you ask the right questions, you can get in the know. So how do you learn about merit aid? Well, the first and I think most important piece of advice in this process and in all facets of life, be assertive. Ask how you can qualify for merit-based scholarships. You can always call college and university admissions offices. Don't be afraid to do that. They love receiving calls from prospective students. They love answering questions. So definitely get statistics and procedures. Ask them how I can apply for merit. Ask them of the number of students who apply, how many end up getting a merit scholarship. You're free to ask all of those questions. You could do the same for any private organizations like businesses, nonprofits, anything you want to apply to, you can definitely just ask them the questions directly. You don't have to be afraid to do so. It's good to note that there are some colleges and universities that will automatically consider students above a certain GPA or test score threshold for a special program that will give them scholarship money based on merit. But other schools actually require that you apply to a merit-based program. So, for example, let's say you're applying to an honors program at, say, Binghamton University, which is part of the SUNY system, State University of New York. Binghamton University has an honors program. And as part of this honors program, you get access to a bunch of really great resources and a bunch of perks and research and all sorts of groups that the students in the regular college they don't have. But you still need to apply if you want a merit-based scholarship. If you want to be in the running for one, you still need to apply specifically for one. So just being in the honors program does not entitle you to one. And that's the kind of example I'm showing here, is that you still need to proactively seek these awards. So the bottom line is that in order to have a chance of even getting merit aid, you've got to do your research. And as I said, if you do a web search for just scholarships or even merit-based aid, merit-based scholarships, it'll return literally millions of results. I did a search, I think it was merit-based scholarships or merit-based aid, and there were over 3 million results. You're not going to sort through all those, so you have to be realistic. You've got to narrow your search by seeking specific awards that might go to a particular group you're a part of. So like I said, a merit-based scholarship for students with disabilities. If you've got some sort of disability and you're part of that group of students, you may want to seek scholarships for specifically designated and allocated for that group. If you're a woman looking to go into STEM fields or computer science fields, maybe you go for a group like that. Computer science scholarships for robotics. Any more specific string will help you narrow the field and make this a lot less overwhelming. And it's good to know, as part of this research, you may discover there are many corporations, the Fortune 500 corporations, other large businesses, that award tens of thousands of dollars to qualified students every year. So these are companies whose names you recognize: Google, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Microsoft. Some of these organizations you have to be an employee of. So for example, McDonald's, if you've worked there for 6 months or over, you might qualify for a merit-based scholarship to the college of your choice. You just need to ask questions. Go straight to their websites and do a little search for scholarship, boil it down, give them a call, find out what's required. And another thing, if there are any students watching, or especially parents, if you're a parent at a large company, large organization, or if you are the student of a parent who works at a large organization, ask questions of that organization. That business, that corporation may award merit scholarships. I had a friend whose father worked for a big insurance company in New York City, and he applied to that fund when we were applying to college because some employee's kid was going to get it. It was just a matter of who was qualified, who had enough merit to earn it. So those can be great resources in addition to colleges and universities themselves. So now that we've talked a little bit about merit-based aid, I want to talk about that in the context of the SAT and the ACT. These are the primary standardized college admissions exams that most students will take in their junior and or senior year for use in applying to college. These are used to gauge your potential for success in college. And just a little disclaimer, even though I work in the standardized test prep space, if you will, this is not a perfect gauge of your ability. The SAT and the ACT are certainly imperfect. They've certainly got inherent biases built in. They are not an indicator of many different types of intelligence that psychologists and folks who analyze intelligence recognize today. So unfortunately, though, there needs to be some way in the eyes of the colleges to level the playing field and try to gauge and compare students across the board rather than just within a school. So the SAT and the ACT are still around and they're still important. Both tests are considered equals by schools. A lot of parents are unaware of this because if there are parents on the line and maybe you took the SAT 20, 25, even 30 years ago, that was the name of the game if you were living on the coasts, whereas the ACT was a very Midwestern-oriented test. But there is no longer that regional bias that you may be familiar with. Right now, every college, every university will see the SAT and the ACT on an equal level. It doesn't give preference to either. They don't give any sort of weight if you take one or if you take both. They're just going to take the best of the two scores if you submit both tests. And you can tell which one you're doing better with by using what's called the concordance table, and those are available online. So it really behooves you to take whichever test is best for you. You should try practicing with each and then pursuing the one that you're best at. They are required by many top and mid-tier schools. And as we mentioned before, there are some schools that have gone test optional. That doesn't mean test free. And especially if you're applying for merit aid, you may still need to take the SAT or ACT. And that, those awards may still be awarded based on a certain threshold that needs to be met. Every situation is unique. Every college and university sets its own policies and sets the amount of scholarship money that it's going to dole out. So you really need to pay attention to the places you want to apply and what their policies and use will be. Okay. So we're going to move on to some details about these. I'm not going to get super wonky about, I could spend 3 days. I'm a big nerd about the SAT and the ACT, so I'm not going to, don't worry, I'm not going to go overboard here. But I did want to give everyone some basic information to show you exactly what the tests are all about side by side. They're both offered 7 times per year, although at different times. Both exams have actually introduced a summertime exam recently. So actually this August 26th, for the first time, there will be an SAT during the summer. And then the ACT next year, 2018, is going to start holding a July exam. So there are many opportunities to take these tests. The SAT is a little bit different because it's slower pace, but it has more abstract questions. So the questions won't be as straight up. They'll seem a little bit different from what you see in school. The ACT, on the other hand, is a very fast-paced test. Anyone who's had experience with the ACT knows you've got to go, go, go. It's like breakneck speed. So it favors students who work quickly, but it's a more straightforward question style. So those things tend to balance out. Both tests, a lot of students are concerned about what math they need to know. They test through Algebra 2. And there may be some concepts that start pushing the boundary between Algebra 2 and pre-calc. But if you've been through Algebra 2 or you're taking it in junior year, you will have enough math under your belt to succeed on the SAT. And the top scores I have shown, the SAT is out of its classic 1600. It used to be out of 2400, but they just revised the test last year again to go back to 1600. And the ACT is out of 36. So they're on completely different scales, but as I said, you can compare the scores you get on both by using what's called a concordance table. And if you search for SAT, ACT concordance table in your search engine of preference, you will find them online. And both exams have an optional essay, and this is one key important thing. You need to make sure that if you're applying to a college that requires one or the other exam, you need to know what their essay policy is. Especially some of the top tier and even mid-tier schools, they require the essay. So just because it's optional doesn't mean you can take it if you feel like it. Depends on where you're applying. I always recommend that students take the essay just because you don't want to limit yourself to where you can apply just because of a silly essay at the end of the test. So you're there for some extra time, but it's worth it in the end. So that's all I'm going to say about the structure of the tests. And if you leave this presentation remembering just one thing about the SAT and the ACT, I want you to remember that the tests are predictable. You should not see them as a barrier to earning admission into the college of your choice. You should not see them as a barrier to earning merit scholarship money. Of course, there's a spectrum of improvement. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If you're starting out at an 18 on the ACT, it's unlikely that you're going to get a 32 in the end. It's happened before, but it's unlikely. But it is not unlikely that you can get that 18 into the mid-20s with the right preparation and the right amount of hard work. By doing that, you can actually qualify yourself for a lot of different merit opportunities. It's not just the Ivy League and the top 50 schools that offer merit money. So just keep that in mind. Repeat this line again and again. The predictability warrants preparation. For everything in life, when we know what's coming, we prepare for it. If you play a sport, you prepare by practicing. If you go to school, you prepare by studying. If you have a standardized test and you know what's on it, you should prepare because it's going to make you do better in the end. And here's just a quick example I like to show everyone. Don't worry, I'm not giving you a quiz. But I just like to demonstrate this by showing a very typical thing that the SAT does. So if you take this sentence, the football team won their first game of the season last night, defeating Clarkville High School by more than 30 points. If you heard that on, in casual conversation, on the TV, on the radio, you wouldn't notice anything wrong. This is how we speak in everyday, the vernacular. We talk to each other, we say this sort of thing. But this is actually considered an error on the SAT and the ACT because we're referring to the football team with a plural pronoun. We're referring to it as a they. We're used to doing this because we think of the football team as having a lot of people on it. So it's multiple people. But the team, which is the subject here, is one thing. So as a matter of fact, we need to use a singular pronoun. The football team won its first game of the season last night. And a silly little error like this, that's part of everyday speech, is something that can reduce your SAT score by 50 or 60 points and can reduce your ACT score by, on the scale of 36, 4, 5, or 6 points. So it's crazy how much just learning a couple of very simple but very important rules can raise your scores. Never convince yourself that the SAT and the ACT are IQ tests or that they're impossible to improve upon because you think there's some sort of secret going on behind them. They're very predictable and they leave the door open thus to a high degree of improvement if you have the right prep resource. So with that, we'll segue into how you can master that sort of thing. And my organization, Method Test Prep, we've made it one of our missions to help every single student master the test. So what is Method Test Prep? How do we come in? Well, what we've done is we've designed a comprehensive SAT and ACT prep course. It's web-based. It's used by hundreds of schools across the nation and all over the world. We have schools everywhere from Venezuela to Africa to Qatar to China. So we're all over the place, and we have students all over the world using our program to improve their scores. The program has several evaluations to let you know where you're starting, lessons to teach you the strategies and content you need to know, quizzes for you to work through those strategies, get examples, get experience with the types of questions you will see on test day, opportunity to take full-length exams so that you can simulate sitting through the real test. A lot of students and parents don't realize this, but these things are almost 4 hours long when you include breaks and the essay. That is a long, long test. And believe it or not, this is a funny aside, I actually still take these exams myself. I register at a local school. I go in there. I can't fit in the desk anymore, but I do my best. I get a lot of strange looks because I'm taking it with students who are in high school. One time I had a parent, a proctor who was a parent of a student who graduated in my high school graduating class. She recognized me and she thought somehow that I failed out of high school and was taking it again to get into college as an adult. That was not the case, but it's a very strange experience, but I still do this. And I can guarantee you it is a very tough thing to sit for that long and focus, even as an adult, no less a student still in high school. So you need to train yourself to sit there for 4 hours. And that's what our full length exams allow us to do. And allows you to go at your own pace and access anywhere with an internet connection. So I just want to do a quick preview of the program, just so you get an idea. Obviously, we're not the only resource around, but I'll admit that I have some bias, but I think we're the best. So it's a structured checklist of tasks. Each of these is a clickable task that you can click on, be brought to a lesson, be brought to an evaluation, be shown the correct strategies. So the typical lesson is going to be rich in visual content. We also recognize that students have different learning preferences and different learning styles. So each question actually has an audio file, or rather each lesson has an audio file associated with it. So you can actually listen to the lesson while you're reading through it. It'll just read off the text, but it's very useful because some students, while they're visual learners, other students are audio-based learners. And that can be a real boon to your experience in improving your score. When you take a quiz, you're going to get instant feedback, whether you're correct or incorrect, and you'll get an explanation video where you'll hear yours truly or one of my colleagues actually demonstrate the problem on a whiteboard, as you see at the bottom of the screen. Obviously, it's not moving because it's not a live shot, but this is what it looks like. You get the opportunity to see how exactly the question is done and what the strategy is behind it so that you can get questions like this correct in the future. And just using the program, how to use it to improve your score so that you may qualify for merit money in the future. As I said, the heart of the program is a checklist, and it's designed to be completed week by week. So each week has 4 to 5 tasks. You don't need to go in order, though, but the program is designed to feature the most fundamental stuff in the beginning. And how do we know what the fundamental stuff is? Well, we study these exams. We work on them ourselves. We take them ourselves. I do the SAT and the ACT all day and every day, so I know exactly what you're going to see. And the point is, we want you to focus on your strengths and weaknesses. And so to enable that, we have evaluations that will tell you where you start. They work as sort of diagnostics. And during the evaluations, you can skip around. And once you submit, you're going to get the full answers, just like I showed before. When you work through the rest of the checklist, we focus on specific concepts per lesson. So reading through and listening to lessons will benefit different types of learners. And when you work on the problems, you're going to gain experience with exact types of problems and questions you're going to see on the SAT. At the end of each lesson, be sure to watch the explanation videos and the quizzes because they're extremely helpful in getting those strategies. Now, how do you use this to improve your scores on your weak areas? We have what's called a concept summary report that will show you where you're weakest and strongest. So if you have, for example, a really rough time with concepts like finding the average or doing things like coordinate geometry, stuff on XY axes like this, you'll see it visually. You'll know that you got 14 out of 40 questions correct, and the rest you got incorrect, and you're compared to all the other students in the system. All that data is kept anonymous, obviously, but it's used to show you how you compare to the average student using the program. So it's a nice visual indication of how you're doing, and all of that is built in for you. You have complete access to it. When you're, in general, this is not just toward our program, but any prep resource you use, you should have the opportunity to quiz yourself on a topic that you feel weakest in. And this is what our quiz on demand feature does. There may be other resources out there that have something similar, but this actually allows you to build a custom quiz that has all the question types you want on it and none that you don't. So if you know you struggle with algebra and geometry and coordinate geometry, you're going to put those on the quiz. So this is just one feature. Now, if you're using a prep book or something like that, you can scroll to the right chapter that you know you need to improve upon. But this is just a little more dynamic. And full-length exams, again, not specific to our program, so this is a generalized piece of advice. I can't emphasize enough the importance of full-length tests. If you're preparing for the SAT and ACT, remember, it's a 4-hour exam, just like I said before. You're not going to be able to focus optimally by just sitting there and winging it. You need to learn what it is to sit there for that long, to maintain your focus, and to maintain the stamina necessary to actually sit through it. You not only get mentally tired, you get physically tired. Even your hand that you're using to bubble in the sheet will get tired. Sounds stupid, but it happens. So this allows honing your skills under the time pressure and under the stress of having to sit there for a long time. In our particular program, we've built in 2 full-length exams on each side of the program, both SAT and ACT, for you to test out your skills. So the benefits of working through our program in particular, it's a short, highly focused, organized lesson setup. So it's better than cramming. If you're used to cramming in school, again, this is just a generalized tip. Do not think you can cram for the SAT and ACT. Not going to happen. Unfortunately, your tests in school, while they test maybe 3 to 4 weeks of material, your test for the SAT and ACT is going to test 3 to 4 years of material, maybe more, depending on what kind of track you're in school. So it's important that you do this over a long period of time, and that you go at your own pace and in your own order. Once you do that, you can improve your way and not just be stuck looking at a static book or sitting in a classroom that's just going to go standardized for every student. You can access from anywhere with an internet connection, and we have, as you saw before, reporting features like the concept summary report that will allow you to see where you need help most. So whether you end up using our program or some other resource of your choice, there's a lot of stuff out there, so I encourage you to do research and go with what you think is the best one. What you ought to do is remember, the SAT and the ACT are predictable. You should not see them as hurdles, but opportunities. Because even if you're starting out at a very low score, like, talk about 15, 16, 17 on the ACT, for example, you can get that up into the mid-20s. You have a decent shot at getting merit-based aid at another school if you have decent GPA and other accolades to your name. Maybe you're on the honor roll, maybe you do a lot of community service. So all these things play in. But at any number of schools, they like hardworking students. They like students who demonstrate improvement. So it's important that you do have some form of prep. So it's really a generalized piece of advice, even if whether you end up using our program or not. So take it seriously, and merit aid is within reach. So that's all I have for you this evening. Before I turn it back over to Tamika, I really want to thank everyone for listening. And I'll be happy to take some questions. If you have questions that you want to ask later, the email address to reach me is there. And I'd be happy to answer anything that you can't think of now. But once again, thanks so much for listening, and thank you, Tamika, for the opportunity.
Wow. Thank you, Evan. Thank you so much. I took some notes because I wanted to highlight some things. So let's go back here. I was sitting here and shaking my head and agreeing with you because I traveled the country training people on how to pass the PMP certification exam, which is also a 4-hour exam. And one of the things I tell people is you cannot wait until the day of the exam and let that be the first time you sit for the exam. It's just not going to work. You're setting yourself up for failure, and that is not a good thing at all. You have to make sure you are switch screen. You have to make sure you are prepared, and that means you are doing some pre-work as well. So Evan, I'm up here trying to figure out, I did something earlier and took my video away. And so I'm trying to figure out how to get myself back.
You know, I can see it, Tamika.
You can see me. I don't think I'm visual to everybody else.
Sometimes if you go to the top of the screen, there's and you click on the meeting ID, there's a toolbar that scrolls down, and you can click click an icon.
Okay, that ain't working. Let's see. Okay, well, we'll figure it out. Somehow we'll figure it out. One of the things I wanted to ask, I know people tend to wait till the last minute.
Yes, they do.
Do the test. You know, I encounter students just more than I need to who wait till their senior year to take the test. Can you talk about the implications? I know if they were listening, they could figure it out from your message, but I just want to put a little bit more emphasis on
kind of like the test taking time.
Waiting late, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, and I'm glad you asked about this, Tamika, because it's basically, and Tawana just advised that I stopped sharing my screen, you would pop up. So hopefully that's that remedies the problem we're having with the video. So in any case, certainly it's the test taking timeline is one of the most important things that to think about if you wait until your senior year. So here's roughly how the college admissions process lays out. If you're applying regular decisions, so just the normal admissions pool, most schools have applications deadlines in January. Now imagine you're a senior, you haven't taken the SAT or the ACT yet. You start school up in the fall, in September. You've got homework that you usually have, got a difficult course structure, you've got extracurriculars, you've got sports, you've got maybe volunteering, you have social obligations, you have family obligations, you have college applications, you have college essays, and potentially, if you've left it until then, the SAT and the ACT. So the primary issue is that it adds to the burden, it adds to the high degree of stress that the first half of senior year already brings for most students applying to college. So that's for starters. As if that weren't bad enough, you're also limiting the opportunities you have to carefully space out your test dates and your ability to prep between them. Yeah. So if you're going to take the SAT, for example, the first test in the fall is in October. Now, prep for these tests, like we said, it doesn't happen overnight. It needs to be over an extended period because there's a lot of information going back years in your education that's going to be tested. And there's a lot to learn with strategy, how the exams work, how they ask the questions, how they trick you, the traps they set. And there's a lot with technique in order to deal with it. So if you're trying to squeeze in a test at the last minute, you take one in October, then you get your score back 3-4 weeks later, but then you're already on top of the November test. Yeah. And then you're going to take it again after learning your score, but not working to improve. And then there's the December test. So it's kind of like a series of very closely spaced dominoes in your senior year. If you can make the effort to take at least one exam in let's say the spring of your junior year, that's a great start. And we actually try to recommend that students use their summers maybe, even before their junior year, but if not, definitely before the senior year, to try to prep. Once you take your first test, it is statistically shown that students who take their second test improve the second time around because they're more familiar with the exam, they're less stressed out, they're more relaxed. So you're actually putting yourself in an advantage if you retest and you've prepped in between. When you start in senior year, you're not giving yourself the opportunity to space them out and prep to relieve that stress, to educate yourself further, So you're just creating a situation where the likelihood of your improvement is much lower. So those are a couple major things you have to deal with. And then, of course, if you're applying early decision or early action or to rolling admissions, and yeah, I see. I mean, it's a whole game. Most of those deadlines are in October or November. Your college counseling office at school may require you to get them all the information uploaded and ready to go a couple weeks before the college deadline so they can make sure everything is in. So you really don't want to put yourself in that stressful situation. If it sounds stressful, it is. So the best thing to do is definitely to start during your junior year, even if it's not, late fall or winter. Spring, at least take your first test, dip your toe in the water, make sure you know what it's about, and then move forward with a schedule. Know when you're going to take your second test so that you can set some time up to improve.
Yeah, so parents, I hope you all are listening to the ramifications of waiting till the last minute. And the other side of that is when he spoke about merit scholarships earlier, there are deadlines associated with merit money. Early bird gets the worm. So that means if you don't have the desired score needed to apply for that merit scholarship, you would have missed that opportunity. In waiting your senior year, you wouldn't get that opportunity again. One of the things I try to advise my clients when I work with them, I actually push them to take their test a lot sooner. Well, more so like around their sophomore year. My goal is for them to be through taking their test their junior year, so that, to your point, when their senior year comes, that's one less burden they have to worry about, because it is a lot of things they have to do. And why add to the stress factor?
Yeah. And as I really like that early bird gets the worm point. I think that's a great point, because a lot of these, colleges have, they set out in their budgets exactly how much money they're going to lay out for scholarships. And once that money's gone, it's not like they're going to say, oh, you waited 6 months, but we're going to let it slide. We're going to open up a little more money. Unfortunately, it does not work like that. So once the money is off the table, it has slipped through the fingers of whoever is applying late. So it's, I mean, the stress, the loss of opportunity is just too much to risk. And certainly, if you are academically prepared, I do agree that, we have a lot of students we work with on the private tutoring end who start summer leading up to their junior year, if they've been on an accelerated track. So certainly students who would be in the running for things like merit aid, we do encourage them to start early, just so, some students are totally done by the spring of their junior year with this whole standardized test prep thing, and now they can use the rest of the time that they've gained back to try and apply for these merit scholarships.
Awesome. I want to give another assumption I hear parents or even students say that counters what you advised in your presentation. So I just want to bring this out so parents can hear again clearly. This statement is not true.
Yeah.
So here's the assumption people make all the time. My child is an honor student, so they don't need to, do any test prep. They can just go and take the test and they will do well because they are honor students.
Yep.
Can you speak to that?
Yes. And I have much experience with this, and I've spilled much digital ink writing about that very assumption. So yeah, thank you for that question. It's, the nature of the SAT and the ACT, it's a different ball game, a different ball of wax. It's whatever idiom you want to use. It's definitely a completely different experience for students in terms of just the content tested and in terms of the way it's tested. When students take tests in schools, they, during the normal school year, let's say, you go into math class, you learn a few concepts for a couple of weeks. Your teacher tells you exactly what's going to be on the exam, maybe even gives you a short review sheet. You study those 2 or 3 concepts, maybe a night or two before the test. And if you get it, you're pretty good. The SAT and the ACT are not like that. You need to spend time and make the initiative yourself to learn what's on the exam, because no one's gonna purposely show you. So that's for starters. The other thing is just the breadth of material. Depending on your track of study, even especially if you're an honors student, you may have learned some of the basic stuff that appears on the SAT as early as 8th grade. You know, some of the fundamental algebra stuff. Now, imagine yourself, you're a sophomore or you're a junior. You're already taking Algebra 2 or pre-calculus. You haven't done a calculation or an algebraic equation by hand in, I don't know, 2 years. And then all of a sudden, you open up the SAT and section 3 is the no calculator math section. Surprise, right? So what happens is you're being tested on very fundamental, easy things, but you've forgotten not necessarily conceptually what's going on, but really how to deal with it in an efficient way. And that is why, you can be the ultimate, genius student, but we see many, many students every year. They're in full honors courses. They have 112 GPA, whatever that means. They're taking all APs or international baccalaureate courses, and they take their first SAT and they're expecting a 1300 and they get an 1150. Now, not to insult anyone, if for certain people, those scores, 1150 is perfectly fine. But for, those high achieving students who have really grand aspirations, it's not going to cut it for them. And their parents are shocked and the students are shocked and they get very upset. And what they need to understand is that even given your excellent performance in school, it's just done in short, abbreviated chunks. You don't necessarily have to have 3 years worth of knowledge or 4 years worth of knowledge to do well in a high school course, right? It's 3 weeks, take a test, 3 weeks, take a test. Maybe you spend a few days studying for a final that covers 6 months, but you've taken a lot of time to review it in school. So it's just a different mode, not to mention the time pressure. Most teachers design their tests so that they can be comfortably finished in the allotted time. The SAT and the ACT are not like that. The average student has real trouble finishing at least one of the sections on either of the tests. So adjusting to that, learning the strategy of how many questions to answer, which questions to answer. You go in blind, you're just putting yourself at a huge disadvantage.
Yeah, so parents, I hope you really heard the wisdom nuggets there, and at the end of the day realize investing in a test prep class is investing in your child's future. I translate it like this: the higher the score, the more money your child can potentially get. And in order for your child to get that type of score, you have to invest in a class that's going to teach them the strategies. So what you're really investing in is the knowledge and the know-how from experts who understand the back end side of how the test questions are written. When people bring me in to teach their leaders how to pass the PMP exam, one of the things I always stress is you are not taking this test from the perspective of what you do every day as a project manager. You are learning how to take the test from the eyes of PMI, and that's how you answer the questions. And if you don't study and understand from that perspective, you are not going to pass that exam. So those 4 hours you would have invested is going to go down the drain. It's the same premise. All standardized tests have the basic fundamental concepts of what we are seeing. It's just the approach and the strategies. That's what you're learning. That's why you have to take, or you need to take, test prep courses so that you can get that inside information. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for failure because you're going to be at a disadvantage. So I hope you guys take a different perspective now when it comes to test prep. That was one of the goals I wanted to accomplish, is to give parents a different perspective on how to view the test prep process. It is not a cost, it is an investment. And depending on how soon you start, that investment can really pay off. When you think about the fact that your child can get a merit-based scholarship, and we're not really going to go into the ins and outs of a merit-based scholarship, but I will give you one of my students as an example. Matter of fact, Sydney, who was on the webinar, I think it was last week or the week before, she talked about the merit-based scholarship she got, which is to the tune of, I'm trying to remember, somewhere maybe about $30,000, $40,000. So let's think about this. A small investment in a test prep class can position your child for $30,000, $40,000. That's not a low end, but that's I have another student. She graduated this year from UPenn, and she got a $50,000 merit-based scholarship. So this is a very, very small drop in the bucket when you think about what your child can get in return. And that's just one school year. That's just one school year.
That's incredible. And certainly, even we've had students come to us where, they've actually already gotten into a school, and because they're, let's say an athlete who's been recruited early or whatever, and they're recruited for the athletics. And they've gotten in provisionally, which means their GPA is good enough, and they're certainly their athletics are good enough, but they need a higher score. Mm-hmm. Or they've gotten in, but their school has told them, look, we have this scholarship, but you've got a 23 on the ACT. You can get that up to a 25. You're going to get like $15,000 a year. And it's, such a small difference can make such a huge impact. So for sure, in the right situation, it's the whole idea of looking at it as an investment is really the right way to think.
Yes, parents, that it makes a difference. Those 2 points make a difference. I had a student where the school told her the same thing. If she increased her score by 2 points, it was going to qualify her for one of their top merit scholarships. So again, the higher you score, the more money you can get. It's all about opportunity. It's all about access. So our focus, our mission is to crush college debt. How do we do that? We have to position our kids in such a way where they can take advantage of these opportunities. And so the test prep, college entrance exams, is one of the ways you can do that. And you made a point when you was giving the example with the provisional admission, parents, because I've also seen this happen, because I hear students and families talk about, well, their academics is not that strong. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean you should give up. Just because their GPA is not reflective of a rigorous course, is not a high GPA compared to other students, it doesn't mean you can't do well on the standardized tests. I know our organization, we have countless stories where we've helped students and where students have been able to get into colleges because they did exceptionally well on their test scores, but their GPA told a different story. There are a variety of reasons why kids do not perform academically. Some of them are dealing with home issues, things beyond their control that impacts their ability to study and their ability to perform well academically. It doesn't mean they are bad students. It's just the nature of the environment they're in. But we've also seen those students do exceptionally well on ACT or SATs. And as a result, schools gave them the opportunity to still get in, and they gave them money because of their test scores.
Yep. Yeah. It's amazing what it can do. And certainly showing real potential for college level work, even though the GPA might not be so stellar, is one of the many ways that the scores can help out. Yeah, definitely.
So there's no excuse. Don't give up. Don't disqualify yourself. We talked about this the other week. Let the school tell you no. Never assume you're not going to get an opportunity. You never know unless you try. But the first thing is you have to put forth the effort so that you can prepare and plan, and you take actions based off of that. It's like, man, time moves fast. It's almost 9 o'clock, Evan.
It does. It's incredible.
It's almost 9 o'clock. So a couple of things, and I'm not sure. Let's see. I'm not looking at the Facebook window. Let me make sure and see. Do we have any questions on that side? Let's double check that before we go away. Okay. All right, I don't see any questions. If you guys come up with questions later, feel free to, email us. We'll be more than glad to respond to your questions as well. So as we close out, Evan, there's a couple of things I would like for us to do. One is, what would be some closing next steps? How would you advise parents as a result of listening and seeing your presentation and hearing our discussion on the importance of ACT, SATs, the importance of preparing, and that I love that phrase, the tests are predictable. Predictability warrants preparation. I want to stress that again. The tests are predictable and predictability warrants preparation, because I've been stressing preparation and planning. You can't just do this off the cuff.
Right.
But based on those factors, what would you suggest parents do as a next step of listening to your presentation?
Yeah. So that I think is largely dependent. There are a couple answers, because it's dependent on where you are in the high school path. So if you're a sophomore, or the parents of a sophomore, student who's going to be a rising sophomore in the fall, so what I would do is I would shelve it until about, let's say, halfway through sophomore year, and then start thinking about maybe taking what we in the biz call a diagnostic test, which is just an initial exam, low stakes. It's not an official test. You don't have to sit for a real SAT or ACT. You can get a free one online at either of the official websites, the College Board for the SAT or the ACT organization for the ACT, just to see where you stand and just to get your student thinking along those lines. One thing about high school age students is that their time perspective is kind of warped. Next year can seem a lifetime away, and then we realize as adults that next year it flies by like a week. So, getting your student thinking about it early and understanding where you stand early on is very important, because that sets a baseline, that sets expectations or helps you set them, and it helps you set goals. So being goal oriented is very important if you're that young. If you're a rising junior, so you'll be a junior in the fall, you should definitely start, if you haven't already started preparing, definitely start finding a resource, whether it's first taking a diagnostic and then sitting with a tutor, or engaging an online program like ours, or finding a prep book, whatever it is. Take a practice test, and then take a half hour. Just sit there with your parent, your guardian, maybe even a friend who's enthusiastic about the process for a half hour, and just say, you know what, here's where I think I need help. And then say, all right, here are my options. Can I go to a group session? Is there a course in the area? There are a million different options out there. Do I want to look at this stuff, with method test prep? There are a lot of different options, but you have to do your research. So make sure you set aside time. Actually break out a calendar, on a week level, and block off maybe a couple hours to look at some options. Try to do it before the school year starts, because once the school year starts, everything becomes crazy. And certainly if you're a rising senior and you're looking at merit-based aid, and you're maybe looking to take the test one more time, hopefully you've taken it already, plan out, so evaluate where you are, take a look at what your goals are to be able to qualify for a scholarship, ask the right questions. If you have to call folks, make a list, make an organized spreadsheet, whatever system of organization you want. Make that a priority, preferably before the school year starts, which for some people is in probably a week or two. So, it's all about carving out the time. I've noticed that if, in particular, I've, as in a manager's role, what I try to do is I try to carve out specific time to take care of things. If I don't, then they're not going to get done, because there are a million distractions and a million excuses for not doing something. There will always be something else to do, and there's probably going to be something else more exciting to do. But remember, going to play video games for 3 hours right now is not going to be as exciting as getting $15,000 a year, a year or 2 or 3 from now. even though it's short-term gratification. So it's all about planning out chunks of time. And that's what I think is the very first step that you can take. So those are for different time points of your high school career. That's what I would suggest.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for those next steps. Parents, I hope you were writing those down. If not, you can listen to the replay and capture them again. We also captured them in the comment section as well, because you need to take action. After each of these sessions, if you've been following, you recognize there has been an action, a deliverable we have given each night. So these, what Evan was just giving you, are your action steps for tonight. Now, Evan, what if parents want to take advantage of method test prep, or even schools or counselors for their schools as well? But I guess we'll talk about parents and then we can talk about the schools secondly. But how would they engage with you? What are they looking at? What can we offer them in terms of taking advantage of method test prep as their method for getting their child ready?
Yeah, sure. So if you want to find out more about method test prep, you can, and what the program does, you can visit our website at methodtestprep.com, and I can paste a link in this Zoom chat over here, and you can visit the link that I'm posting right now, which will allow you to just read more about the program and see what it has to offer. You can, if you're, I know we want to sort of separate the parents and the school discussion, but so the parents and the students should do research together. You should make sure that everyone is on the same page, because when parents kind of unilaterally steer the ship and then break it to the students, oh, by the way, you're doing this prep program, students recoil a bit. So try to do things together, painful as it may be, because, you know, if everyone's on the same page, then expectations are where they need to be. And you get your you know, the most bang for your buck, so to speak. Then what you can do, if you are not sure whether your school subscribes, because almost 1,000 schools across the country and around the world subscribe. So if you're listening right now, there's a decent chance that your school is one of them. Contact your counseling office at your school or the administration. They should know whether you use method test prep. If you're not getting an answer over the summer and you want to know immediately, you can certainly email me directly or email Tamika, who can contact me, and I'll be happy to check whether your school subscribes. And if not, you can purchase an individual subscription. You can also, you know, there are many other resources on our website that you can look at, but that's where you can start. Okay.
So do we want to share what an individual subscription will look like? Is there something that we could share with them, offer them for participating in the webinar?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can, if you have, so normally the subscription is, so it's $149 per year. So that's an annual subscription. You can log in as much as you want to both sides of the program, which is the SAT and the ACT, and you can work through the whole thing. What we can offer as a sort of promotion for this webinar, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a coupon code that I will make available. I can email you that code. You'll get 20% off actually when you register with that coupon code. Yeah.
And so that's like, I'm sitting here like $149. I wish you all existed when I was getting ready for college. I'm like, parents.
And I wish I knew about it when I was applying to college.
Exactly. I'm like, even without the 20%, $149 is like nothing. You heard us mention some of the amounts of merit scholarships your child could get. If you guys don't jump on this, I don't know what to say. It is an investment, and this is a small investment. We spend more on our hair, we spend more on shoes, and we get zero return. Zero. This investment can get and yield $10, $20, $30, $40,000 plus return a year, you guys. So if you don't jump on this, I don't know what to say, but I'm believing that you are going to take advantage of this. So what you need to do, if you haven't registered through the crushcollegedebt.com website, you need to register, because that's where we will release the coupon code. So if you want to take advantage of this special, we will release it to all registrants who go to the crushcollegedebt.com website and enter their information. That's how we'll be able to get the information out to you, because we're sharing all the resources from the webinars via to everyone who register on the website. We gave away a few prizes already. I announced the winners early, so it pays to register and share your information. So that is phenomenal. Parents, I can't stress it enough. I hope you take heed of the wisdom and the insight Evan shared this evening. I hope you take advantage of the resource in the form of method test prep. I think it's a great program, and maybe I could be a little biased, but when you think about from an educator's perspective and how people learn, you have an online platform that caters to the different learning styles of your child. It's very reasonably priced. I mean, beyond reasonable, but it gives you multiple ways of accessing the information, from an audio to a video perspective, and it's go at your own pace. And you get both ACT and SAT. Because let me tell you, you go and check out some of these other test prep programs, it's either ACT at one cost, ACT at another cost, and sometimes some of them will offer a combined special, but I can tell you this, it's not going to be at $149. I'm just saying, it's not going to be at $149. But it's a proven system.
Yeah, we regularly have students who use the system. They'll go up, if they use it as it's supposed to be used, and they actually work through diligently, 120 to 150 points on their SAT score, 2, 3, 4 points on their ACT score. That's what we're seeing as averages. So we've done case studies. We get testimonials almost every day that are just amazing, and we're really proud of the work we do. And part of the reason it's priced as it is that we want to make sure that even students who don't have a lot to spend on a test prep program can gain access to high level quality material, so that they can increase their chances and, as you said, open up that opportunity to access and hopefully some scholarship money for sure, and admissions, of course. Yeah. Yes. I meant to ask you that. What was the average improvement? And you guys they also offer, they share blogs that they write. Sometimes they do free videos, something may change or an update. So they keep you informed of the changes and things that are going on that will help you be successful. So thank you so much, Evan. Thank you,
definitely appreciate you taking the time out this evening to join us. I know it's been a long day.
Oh yeah.
But I appreciate the investment you all made in our parents and in the future of our kids, and sharing this information. But to your point, it speaks to the mission of Method Test Prep that you referenced earlier, being able to help students master the test.
Well, thank you very much. Again, it's a great opportunity, and if just leave tonight with one message is that these things are within your grasp. The merit money, the scores that get you that merit money. You just need to actually sit down, take time to plan it, take time to execute on it, and take the initiative needed to really improve. And it's just like anything else in life. Anything good requires hard work. Nothing in life that's good is easy. So this is just one of many lessons like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for attending. We're going to bring it to a close. Make sure you share. Sharing is caring. So make sure you share this video and the other videos with your network, so that we can spread the knowledge, we can spread the information, and help other families get prepared, or help other families prepare their kids. Again, go to crushcollegedebt.com to register, and we will see you all on tomorrow night. So thank you again. Remember, parents, you can send your kids to college for free. Here's the book. I know we were referencing some comments in the some pages based on a lot of the information that Evan was sharing. So if you don't have the book, make sure you get it. We did put the link in the comment section, collegeforfree.info. But again, you can send your kids to college for free. It's all about you putting a plan in place and you preparing in terms of how to get them to the next level. So thank you again for joining us. Until next time, make it a great and intentional day as you work to get your kids ready for the next level. All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.